The boy wasn't on any guest list. No one knew his name. And yet he stood there, just beyond the reach of the balloons, the laughter, the plastic folding tables covered in melting frosting, watching like he'd only ever seen birthdays in books. I remember thinking, that kind of sadness doesn't belong in a child's eyes. But I had no idea that inviting him for a slice of cake would change the entire trajectory of our lives. If you believe that kindness still matters, that small, decent moments can create waves you never see coming, then like this video and subscribe, because this story begins with nothing more than a paper piñata and a broken-hearted little girl. But where it ends, you won't see it coming. We'd picked the west corner of Miller Park, under the crooked oak tree that leaned like it was eavesdropping on everyone's secrets. The air was thick with sun and the kind of summer warmth that made kids peel off their shoes and run barefoot, squealing, across the grass. My daughter, Lila, had turned 7 that morning. She'd made exactly one wish when she blew out her candles. That this birthday would feel happy. Not just look happy. That was the exact word she used, feel. It was her first birthday since her mother passed, and the ache of her absence hovered just beneath the frosting and pink streamers. I'd done what I could with the budget of a single dad. Borrowed a foldable table from the firehouse, tied helium balloons to a cooler full of Capri Suns, and made a lopsided unicorn cake that was more emotional support than dessert. But when she smiled at me, truly smiled, I started to think maybe we'd pulled it off. Then I saw him, a boy, maybe 6 or 7, standing 20 feet away near the chain-link fence, half hidden by the edge of a scraggly bush. He wasn't with any of the other parents. Wasn't wearing party clothes. Just black sneakers with untied laces, jeans with one knee torn through, and a too big green hoodie despite the heat. His eyes didn't move from the party, not once. He wasn't begging for food or making a scene, just watching. So still it was like his shadow hadn't caught up with him yet. My instinct said he was lost. My heart said something else entirely. Lila, I said, motioning to her as she showed off a glittery bracelet someone had gifted her. Do you know that boy? She looked up, squinting into the sun, and then gave a tiny shrug. No, but he looks sad. She went back to playing, but I couldn't shake it. The boy's loneliness was too loud, even if he never made a sound. So I grabbed the cupcake and walked over, careful not to scare him. When I got close enough, I noticed his hands, thin, fidgeting, clenched at his sides like he wasn't sure he had permission to exist in this space. Hey, buddy, I said gently, crouching so I didn't tower over him. We've got too many cupcakes and not enough eaters. Want to help me out? He blinked, eyes flicking from the cupcake to me and back again. I'm not invited. You are now, I said. What's your name? Oliver. I held out the cupcake like a peace treaty. Well, Oliver, come on. Help me make sure Lila doesn't win the piñata candy all by herself. He followed me with slow, almost uncertain steps, like he expected someone to yell or drag him away. But no one did. Lila welcomed him like he was part of the class. Maybe because she knew what being invisible felt like. Maybe because kids just know. I introduced him to a few other children. Told the adults he was a friend from the neighborhood. That wasn't a lie, not really. For an hour, he was just another kid. Arms sticky with juice, chasing bubbles, laughing like he forgot how to stop. The transformation was stunning, like watching color bleed into a black and white sketch. And yet, something didn't sit right. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words were too careful, too polished for a 6-year-old. And when another parent tried to ask him which school he went to, he dodged the question. Politely, skillfully, almost rehearsed. The party started winding down just after 5 p.m. Kids with frosting-stained mouths climbed into waiting minivans. Lila helped me gather streamers, stuffing them into trash bags while humming the same off-key song her mom used to sing while cooking. I looked around to find Oliver again, but he was gone. Just vanished. No goodbye, no trace. Like he'd never been there at all. I thought maybe I'd imagined him. But as I loaded the last crate into my truck, a black SUV with windows darker than a midnight confession pulled up to the curb. The kind of car you didn't see often in this side of town. The back door opened first, and there he was, Oliver, face pale, hands in his lap. Not a trace of the cupcake frosting that had been smeared on his cheeks earlier. Then the front door opened. A woman stepped out, mid-30s, tailored navy slacks, sunglasses big enough to hide her soul. She radiated power the way most people radiate heat. Her shoes alone probably cost more than my rent. She didn't glance at me right away. Her eyes went straight to Oliver. "Did you have fun?" she asked, voice calm, precise. He nodded. "It was nice." She looked at me then. Not a glance. Looked like she was cataloging every detail of my existence in 2 seconds flat. I stepped forward, unsure what I was walking into. "Ma'am, Thank you," she interrupted. He hasn't smiled like that in 2 years. And that was it. She got back into the SUV. The door shut with a whisper of money, and they drove away. I stood there with melted balloons at my feet and a strange feeling tightening in my chest. Because that woman. I knew her face. Everyone did. Victoria Langford, CEO of Langford Biotech, worth $14.2 billion according to Forbes. And the boy I'd just shared cupcakes with was her son. I didn't expect to see her again. After the birthday party, I half convinced myself I'd misread everything. The boy's sadness, her gratitude, the billionaire connection. Maybe I'd mistaken her for someone else. Maybe it was all just a weird blip in an otherwise ordinary life. But 4 days later, there she was again. Victoria Langford, standing in my garage, under a flickering fluorescent bulb that made everything feel more surreal. She didn't belong in a place like that. You could feel it. My shop smelled like old oil and burnt coffee. Her presence was too sharp, too clean, like someone had sliced a scene from a Vogue profile and dropped it into a gritty indie film. But she didn't flinch at the grease or the noise. She stood between two half-gutted cars and looked at me like we were in a boardroom. "Mr. Walker," she said. My hands were still covered in brake dust. I wiped them on a rag that had seen better years. "That's me. You're Oliver's mom, right?" She nodded. Her voice was calm but clipped, the kind that didn't waste syllables. "Victoria Langford, thank you for what you did for my son." I looked down, still holding the rag. It wasn't a big deal. He looked like he needed a cupcake. To my surprise, she smiled, just barely. It was more than a cupcake. There was a pause. Heavy. Intentional. The kind of pause that doesn't happen by accident. "Is Oliver okay?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "In fact, he's asked about you and your daughter every day since the party." I didn't quite know what to say to that. I'd never been part of a billionaire's daily schedule. Lila had mentioned him once or twice. Her quiet party friend who liked red balloons. But we'd both assumed he was just a one-day visitor to our lives. Nothing more. Then Victoria did something unexpected. She stepped closer and handed me a small envelope. Inside was a simple note card. Heavy paper. Embossed gold lettering. The kind of thing people with private chefs probably use to leave notes for their household staff. "Dinner at 7. Friday. No suits required. Bring Lila." Below that, Langford Estate. I blinked. "You want me and my daughter to come to your place?" "Oliver's therapist says he needs connection. You and Lila seem to have given him something he hasn't had in a while." I looked at her. "He needs friends. Not whatever this is." Victoria's jaw tightened, defensively. "I know how this looks. Believe me, I wouldn't invite strangers into my home if I didn't think it mattered. But Oliver, he doesn't connect with anyone. Not at school, not at home. That day at the park, he wasn't just happy. He was safe. I'm trying to understand why." There it was. Honesty, raw and trembling beneath the surface of her carefully rehearsed face. I saw it like a cracking glass. She wasn't here just because Oliver liked cupcakes. She was desperate. I glanced back at the Corolla I was working on, then at her shoes, standing on concrete stained with a decade of underpaid labor. "Okay," I said, "but we're not showing up in tuxedos." Friday night came faster than I expected. Lila wore her best dress, pink with tiny gold stars, and asked me 17 times if billionaires had pets. I said maybe, but probably something weird like a flamingo or a robot dog. The gate to the Langford estate opened like something out of a sci-fi movie. The driveway was longer than our entire street, winding through manicured hedges and tall, ominous trees. Lila whispered, "This feels like a dream with snacks." The house was all glass and angles. You didn't knock. The doors just knew you were there. A butler, yes, a real one, greeted us and led us to a living room that looked like it had never once heard a toddler scream or a dog bark. The air even smelled expensive. Victoria waited by the staircase, wearing jeans this time. Still elegant, still intimidating, but softer. "Human. Thank you for coming," she said. Then Oliver appeared from around the corner, hair combed, wearing a Marvel t-shirt that Lila immediately commented on. You like Iron Man too? She squealed. Finally, someone cool. The ice broke like glass dropped from a rooftop. Dinner was surprisingly normal. Chicken tacos. Fresh lemonade. The kids laughed over spilled salsa and tried to build a nacho tower taller than their forks. And Victoria? She watched it all like someone trying to memorize a language she didn't speak. When the kids ran off to the game room. Yes, there was a game room. Victoria and I ended up on the patio. She poured 2 glasses of wine. I didn't ask the brand, but I knew it probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. She stared out over the backyard. 2 acres of silence. My husband died 3 years ago, she said without looking at me. Plane crash. Private jet. Everyone thought I was on it too. I remember, I said quietly. It was on the news. After that, Oliver changed. Completely. Nightmares, silence, constant anxiety. He stopped speaking in school. I tried everything. Doctors, travel, tutors. But it's like he sealed himself shut. Until your party. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. She turned to me then, eyes subtly not CO polished, but wide and unsure. You and your daughter didn't ask him who he was. You just let him be. That's kind of the point of birthdays, I replied. Everyone gets to be included. No resumes required. Victoria smiled again. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Would you be open to spending more time with him? She asked. Playdates, weekend visits. I could compensate you. I almost laughed. You want to pay me to let our kids hang out? I know how that sounds, but I'm not offering charity. I'm asking for help. From a parent who clearly knows how to raise a kind child. That hit harder than I expected. I looked through the glass doors, where Oliver and Lila were dancing with stuffed animals on their heads. I'm not sure what this is, I said honestly. But yeah, we can figure it out. She nodded. Thank you, Ethan. And for the first time since I met her, she said my name like it meant something. It was supposed to be one dinner, one playdate, one strange but touching arrangement between 2 families with grief hanging between them like an unspoken language. But sometimes, healing sneaks in when you're not paying attention. By mid-fall, it had become routine. Friday night dinners alternated between my 2-bedroom rental and Victoria's glass mansion. Lila started calling Oliver her bonus brother. He laughed more, ate more, slept better, according to Victoria, who'd begun smiling more often, too, though never carelessly. Hers was the kind of smile that knew what it cost to exist in a fragile world. One Sunday, as we sat on a picnic blanket in her backyard watching the kids choreograph a ridiculous cardboard box musical, she asked quietly, "Do you believe people find each other by accident?" "No," I said without hesitation. "I think broken hearts attract each other like magnets." She nodded like she'd been waiting to hear someone say that out loud. Then she reached into her bag and handed me a small, folded photo. It was of Sarah, my late wife, younger, laughing beside a hospital bed. "That's her," I whispered, heart stumbling. "She was Oliver's nurse in pediatric ICU," Victoria said softly. "Before my husband's accident, when Oliver had a rare seizure disorder. I remember her. She told me once, people like your son don't need miracles. They need good people to show up and stay." I stared at the photo, stunned. "She never mentioned you." "She wouldn't have," Victoria said, eyes glistening. "But she saved us. Now, maybe I can do something that matters. For her. For you. For them." In that moment, it all came together, not as a revelation, but as a quiet truth settling into place. We weren't just helping each other heal anymore. We were becoming something. Not charity. Not rescue. Family. 6 months later, Victoria stood beside me at Lila's school recital, clapping like a proud aunt while Oliver filmed every second. Her hand brushed mine, not dramatically, not publicly, just gently enough to say, "We're still figuring this out, but I'm not going anywhere." And neither was I.